What up, dude bros? I'm Frank. This is a video review of the Wrenfield by Shellington Labs. Shellington Labs is the same group that brought us the Flypoint and the Spring Thunder. This blaster, just like those, has shell ejection, which is super cool. The Wrenfield is a very powerful spring-powered bolt-action magazine-fed blaster that uses shells. Very cool blaster. Let's get into it. Alrighty, external overview of the Wrenfield, starting up at the front. There's no in-strike barrel lug, but up in the front end we have a Picatinny style rail down here, and up top we have Picatinny rails all the way across right here. If this is not enough rail for you, what the heck are you trying to attach to the top of your blaster, bro? And on each side of the blaster we have what appears to be M-LOK right here and right here, which is a really modern tactical attachment system. So this is just an M-LOK Picatinny rail which slides into the M-LOK slots. There are also dedicated M-LOK attachments if you want to skip the rail and just put the attachment straight into the M-LOK. And the benefit of M-LOK, especially on the side rails, is if you're not putting anything on the rail, sometimes you don't want Picatinny on the side of the blaster because then your fingers have to touch it and it's kind of like putting your hands on a cheese grater, which is not comfortable. So if you don't have any attachments to put on the side of the blaster, it can be totally smooth for your front hand's comfort. M-LOK is super tactical, and now it's on Nerf guns. What a time to be alive. Now moving back to the magazine and the shell loading system, which is super cool. So to get the mag out, you hit the mag release, which is right behind the mag well like this, revealing the magazine. The included magazine is a 7-round mag, but they also have an extended 10-round mag available on their website. And this magazine is the same design as the Flypoint magazine, so they are cross-compatible. So to load, you get your half-length dart and put it into the shell like that. This blaster is only compatible with half-length darts. This blaster is not compatible with full-length Nerf Elite darts. And once you have your loaded shell, you put your loaded shell into your magazine like that. Loading it is pretty time-consuming, and this blaster does not function without the shells. You cannot just put your darts right into the magazine directly. And once that magazine is loaded up, you put it right back into the mag well like that. The mag insertion and release is pretty smooth, and the mag release works pretty well. Although 3D printed parts don't have the best sound when they rub against each other like this. Sounds like I'm a DJ. I'm in one of those silly moods. But once you have your loaded magazine inserted, now comes the priming. This is a bolt action system, so to prime this one, you lift up the bolt like that, pull back, push forward, and lower the bolt handle down. That enables you to fire one time. It is a proper bolt action system. It's not a side prime system. You do have to lift up and then pull back, which gives it a very authentic bolt gun feel, which they're going after here. The prime strength required is way stronger than a normal Nerf Elite blaster, but this blaster is shooting up over 160 FPS, so that is to be expected. The prime stroke itself is fairly smooth. It's not the smoothest, but it's not really that rough. I think it's as smooth as it can be considering how many 3D printed components are used here. So after you fire the blaster, the empty shell is now sitting in the chamber. Next time you prime it, it flies out like that. Shell ejection is super tactical. And then you pull it back, and next time you prime it, you're then pushing in the next shell to fire again. So a bolt action system mechanically is pretty simple, but emotionally it's just super fun. It is totally different using a bolt action system compared to a side prime, a pump action, or a top prime. It's just way more tactical. This is how real bolt guns are chambered. I have the bolt handle installed on the right-hand side for a right-handed shooter, but it's also able to be moved to the left-hand side if you need to. And after you've shot all the ammo and you don't have any more ammo in the magazine, after you prime it and push the bolt handle forward, you actually get blocked as the magazine comes up and indicates you don't have any ammo, and that prevents a dry fire. So very cool priming system. Bolt action is super fun to use. The emotional response provided by this action is very cool. And moving on to the trigger pull. The trigger pull is pretty standard. This blaster does not have slam fire. Down to the grip. Overall, the grip is fairly comfortable. I think it's sized appropriately for pretty much any hand type. It's pretty smooth, filleted, pretty ergonomic. It is a thumbhole stock, so it's going to inherently restrict your wrist a little bit, but overall pretty comfortable grip that's going to welcome most human hands. Now moving back to the stock. This is an adjustable stock for length of pull, so you can extend it or bring it in a little bit. Although it is a pretty chunky stock, and it did tear into my shoulder a little bit after prolonged play experience. That is an external overview of the Wrenfield. It looks really cool, but there's actually not that much to go over. So now I'll show you the blaster firing. Shooting dart zone, red half-length darts. Operating the Wrenfield was super fun. Using shell ejection is really, really cool. It's a very powerful blaster that's fairly accurate, and the bolt action cycles fairly well, especially considering it's 3D printed. There is a little bit of that signature 3D printed whine when those parts are rubbing against each other, both in the priming system and the magazine system, but overall it's a pretty smooth blaster to use. To compare this blaster to others, I put it up in my chronograph. With worker darts, achieved an average velocity of 186 feet per second. With Adventure Force black half-length darts, 174 feet per second. And also with Dart Zone red half-length darts, 174 feet per second. So insanely fast muzzle velocity, way, way higher than that 70 FPS Elite par. This is up over the Nexus Pro, over the Max Striker, and over that whole 150 FPS range. It shoots flippin' hard, bros. So that's the objective information I can provide on this blaster. Now to my personal opinion. Overall, I'm pleasantly surprised by the Wrenfield. It works just as advertised. The action works really well, and even though it shoots really, really hard, it's still reasonable to prime this blaster back. Now, I'm not sure this prime action is really great for children or really young, weaker, smaller bodies, but if you're a male over the age of 16, you should be able to handle this just fine. One of the biggest pros of this blaster is that it uses shells, but one of the biggest cons of this blaster is that it uses shells. Shells are really fun for that emotional experience. It's really quite magnificent to see it eject from your blaster, especially in a bolt action platform. You feel more like a sniper when you prime it back and you see the previous shell eject. It's flippin' cool, man. Is it functional? No, who cares? Shut up. You're asking the wrong questions. It's flippin' cool. That's why you buy something like this. And I really dig that they reuse the fly point shells and fly point magazines, so if you already have that, you don't need to buy a whole new set of everything. But the balance of the blaster, the ergonomics and the handling of this blaster is pretty solid. My only personal complaint on the ergonomics are the stock. It feels a little chonkier than it needs to be, and it was biting into my shoulder at times and was kind of irritating. But I think the rest of the cosmetic looks awesome, and I think it's sweet that they use real M-LOK slots up front. Freaking tactics, bro. But overall, my opinion on this product is pretty positive for specifically what they're trying to achieve here. So now to the question, to buy or not to buy. This blaster is not a normal blaster, so I can't just recommend it if you're just looking for a high-performance blaster. This blaster is specifically tailored for people who want shell ejection and they want bolt action. If you're not gung-ho on using shell ejection and bolt action, I think there are better options out on the market. But if you want shell ejection, bolt action, and high velocity, I can't think of a better blaster on the market than this one. It doesn't look realistic enough and it doesn't function smoothly enough to be like for a solid 100% prop person. I think this is really going after foam flingers who want to have high performance, but they also want an emotional response of using like a sniper rifle. And if that's you, yeah, definitely consider buying this blaster. I think it'll be best suited for plinkers or target shooters or people who are trying to have the emotional, like imaginary experience rather than a competitive foam flinger. Shells are super fun, but outdoors you might lose them, and indoors you're going to step on them. In an actual battle, they could be kind of a nuisance. And on the Shellington website, you also have different color options. This one is blue and orange, but they have others available. So yeah, a bit of a scattered opinion, but hopefully I've laid out everything you need to make an educated purchase decision on your own. So that concludes my review of the Wrenfield. If you'd like to buy one, check out the Shellington website, link in the description box below. Thanks so much for watching, bros, and as always, stay tactical.